The day I bought my condo, I cried in the parking garage for 20 minutes before I could drive home. Not because I was sad. Because I was 26 years old. I had done it entirely on my own, and I had never in my life been told that was possible for someone like me. My parents split when I was 9. My mom raised my brother and me in a two-bedroom apartment in Columbus, working doubles at a hospital cafeteria most of my childhood. Money was always the thing we didn't talk about directly but felt everywhere. In the way she'd pause at the grocery store and put something back. In the way she'd say, "We'll see," when what she meant was no. I loved her for how hard she tried. I also watched her struggle for so long that I think I internalized her anxiety about money before I even understood what money was. By the time I was in my mid 20s, I had built something. Not Instagram worthy something, just quiet, real something. I worked in UX design, freelance at first, then a full time role at a mid sized software company in Austin. I'm Robert Pin 15% of every paycheck into savings since I was 22. I drove a 2017 Civic I'd bought used and paid off in 3 years. I packed lunch most days. I didn't take vacations I couldn't afford. When I turned 26, I had enough saved for a down payment on a one-bedroom condo in a neighborhood that was still up and coming but not sketchy. 1,100 square feet. A little balcony. In-unit laundry. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever owned, including the second-hand furniture I spent 3 weekends arranging and rearranging until it felt like mine. I told my mom first. She screamed into the phone. Then she cried. Then I cried. It was one of the best phone calls of my life. My brother called me that night and said, "Yo, you actually did it. That's insane." He meant it as a compliment. I took it as one. 3 weeks after I moved in, my mom called with a different kind of voice, the careful one, the one she used when she was about to ask for something she already knew might be a hard conversation. My stepfather had been laid off. It had happened suddenly, restructuring his whole department gone in a Friday afternoon email. He'd been there 11 years. They were 2 months behind on rent and their landlord had already sent a warning notice. My mom asked if she could come stay with me just for a little while until they figured things out. I want to be clear about something. I said yes because I love my mother. And I want to be clear about something else. I did not say yes expecting it to go the way it went. Just a little while turned into my stepfather finding a new job within 6 weeks, warehouse supervisor, decent pay, benefits, and then it turned into them not leaving. Not because I kicked them out and they came back, because the conversation about leaving just never happened. Every time I thought about bringing it up, I'd think about my mom crying on the phone the day I bought the place, and I'd think about the years of packed lunches and grocery store pauses, and I would say nothing. They were in my bedroom. I was on an air mattress in my own living room for 3 months before I finally moved the air mattress into my office nook and bought a daybed to make it feel less pathetic. I told myself it was temporary. That's the word I used, like a mantra. Temporary. 6 months in, my stepfather sat me down with the energy of a man delivering news he'd already decided and told me they'd worked out a budget and they could contribute $400 a month toward household expenses in my condo that I owned, that I was paying a $1,340 mortgage on, plus HOA fees, plus utilities, plus the property taxes I'd had to start an escrow account to manage. He said it like he was doing me a favor. He used the word contribute. He smiled when he said it. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then I said, "Okay." Because I didn't know how to say anything else to this man who had been in my life since I was 11, who had coached my brother's little league team, who I had watched my mother love for 15 years. Okay was not the right answer. I know that now. My mom's sister moved into the area around that time. A job transfer. She was staying in a hotel temporarily, and my mom, without asking me, told her she could crash on our couch for just a week or two. My mom's sister is not a bad person. She is, however, a person who unpacks her dry shampoo and her ring light and her emotional processing needs into whatever space she occupies and makes it feel very small, very fast. She stayed for 6 weeks. During those 6 weeks, I had my mom and stepfather in my bedroom, my mom's sister on my couch, and me on the daybed in the nook. Getting up at 5:30 every morning to shower before anyone else woke up so I could have 20 minutes of privacy in my own home. I had a work call during this period where a client offered me a retainer, $1,200 a month for ongoing UX consulting on top of my full-time salary. I hung up and sat on my balcony and stared at the parking lot below for a long time. I should have felt elated. Instead, I felt tired in a way I couldn't name. I was dating someone at the time. His name was Joel, and he was patient for longer than most people would have been. He never complained about the situation directly, but he started suggesting we always go to his apartment. He started getting quiet in a way that felt like a question he didn't know how to ask. One night in October, about 8 months after my mom moved in, we were sitting on his couch and he said, "Can I ask you something and you won't get defensive?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Do you actually want things to change, or have you decided this is just how it is?" I told him that wasn't fair. He said, "I know it's not fair. That's kind of my point." We broke up 2 months later. He was kind about it. He said he cared about me and he wasn't going anywhere as a person, but he didn't want to be in a relationship where he always felt like third priority behind people who weren't treating me like a priority at all. I didn't argue with him. I didn't have the energy to argue with him. I just sat in my car in his parking lot afterward and stared at my steering wheel. The thing that nobody tells you about being the responsible one in a family is that it's not a role anyone formally assigns you. It just accumulates. You say yes once, and then yes becomes your default. And then one day you realize the yeses have built a structure around you that feels impossible to dismantle without the whole thing collapsing. And the collapsing feels like your fault, even when it isn't. My stepfather got a bonus in February. Decent one. Around $4,000. They used it to pay off credit card debt they'd accumulated, which I found out somewhat accidentally when my mom left a statement on the kitchen counter, was close to $9,000. $9,000 of credit card debt. While living in my home, paying no rent, contributing $400 a month to household expenses on a two-income household. I didn't say anything about it. I went to my Nook and I opened my laptop and I started a spreadsheet. I don't know exactly what switched in me that night. Maybe it was Joel's question playing on loop. Maybe it was the statement on the counter. Maybe it was just the accumulation of 14 months finally hitting a weight I couldn't carry quietly anymore. But I opened a spreadsheet and I started tracking every expense, every month, what I was paying, what they were contributing, what the real number was. I'm a data person by profession. Putting something into a spreadsheet makes it feel real in a way that feelings don't. And when I looked at the real number, the actual dollar amount representing what 14 months of free housing plus partial utility coverage minus 400 a month equaled, I felt sick. I also started being more honest in conversations with myself about what I wanted, about what this situation had cost me, not just financially. I'd given up my bedroom, I'd lost a relationship I cared about, I'd spent over a year sleeping in a nook in my own home. I had two incomes, and I felt poorer than I had at 23 because my life did not feel like mine. I didn't want to blow anything up. I genuinely didn't. I sat with this for 2 more months. I tried twice to bring up the subject of a timeline with my mom. Both times she got quiet and said something about how stressful things had been and how much she appreciated me, and I let it drop because her voice did the thing it always did, and I reverted to being 9 years old in a grocery store watching her put something back. In April, I finally told her directly. I needed my space back. I told her I loved her. I told her I was not trying to hurt anyone. I told her I needed a real conversation about a real move out date within the next 60 days. She cried. Then she told my stepfather. Then he came to talk to me. Not to have a conversation, but to lecture me about family and sacrifice and how I didn't understand what they'd been through. He said I was being selfish. He used that word, selfish, to me, in my home. My mom's sister, who had long since moved into her own apartment but was over for dinner that night because of course she was, told me I needed to think about the bigger picture. She said family takes care of each other. I agreed with her. I said I'd been demonstrating that for over a year. They did not find that funny. 2 weeks later, I found out through a family group chat, one I was technically in but rarely checked, that my mom had posted in there complaining about my ultimatum. She wrote that I was breaking up the family over money and that I had changed. My aunt replied with a string of heart emojis and a message that said I needed to remember where I came from. My stepfather wrote a paragraph about how young people today don't understand what it means to sacrifice. I screenshotted everything. Not with a plan yet, just I'm a data person. I screenshot things. I moved into a short term furnished rental in May. I found it within a week. A corporate apartment near my office, month to month. It cost me more per month than my mortgage, and I was still paying my mortgage because my mom and stepfather were still in my condo. But I could not spend one more night on that daybed. The day I moved out, I sent my mom a text telling her I needed them out by June 30th. I told her I was not asking. I told her I would begin the formal notice process if needed. I used the phrase formal notice process because I had spent 2 hours on the phone with the tenant's rights attorney the week before, a free consultation I'd found through my employer's legal assistance benefit, learning exactly what my rights were as an owner occupant in Texas. My mom did not respond for 3 days. When she did, the text said, I can't believe you're doing this to us. After everything. After everything. I thought about Joel asking if I actually wanted things to change. I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about 14 months on a daybed. And then I thought about the family group chat and the paragraph my stepfather had written and the heart emojis, and I picked up my phone and I wrote a post. Not in the group chat, on my own Instagram public. I didn't name anyone. I didn't have to. I wrote about buying my home at 26. I wrote about saying yes when my family needed help and meaning it completely. I wrote about what happened after. I included the numbers, not to embarrass anyone, but because I am a data person and I believe in specificity. I wrote about sleeping on a daybed for over a year. I wrote about the conversation I tried to have and the word my stepfather used. I wrote about the group chat. Then I put my phone face down and went to make coffee. I did not expect what happened. By the time I turned my phone back over, the post had been shared 47 times. My DMs were full of strangers telling me their own version of the same story. My college roommate texted me and said, I always knew something was off when you never had people over. A woman I'd worked with 2 years ago sent a voice memo that was 3 minutes of her crying and saying she'd been through the same thing with her in laws. And then my phone started ringing. My mom, my stepfather, my mom again, my aunt, my stepfather again. I let every single one go to voicemail. My stepfather left a message telling me I had publicly humiliated the family. He said people he knew were texting him about it. He said this was unforgivable. His voice was shaking. My mom left a message crying. She said she didn't understand why I had to make things public. She said the family doesn't air its laundry like this. She said she was embarrassed. I sat with those voicemails for a long time. Here's what I wanted to say back, and what I eventually said, not in a voicemail, but in a text, calmly, after I'd let myself feel all of it. I didn't start the public record. You did in a group chat with 12 people, including relatives I haven't spoken to in years. I was just quieter about it for longer. I am done being quiet about things that are costing me my home, my relationship, my peace of mind. If that is humiliating, then we have different definitions of the word. They moved out on June 2027, 3 days early. My stepfather put a dent in the hallway wall moving out furniture, a piece of furniture, by the way, that I had bought, and did not mention it. I found it when I walked in the next day. I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom for a long time. My bed was in there again. The closet was mine. The bathroom counter had one toothbrush on it, and it was mine. I repainted the bedroom that weekend, a color I'd had saved in my phone for 2 years, a deep, muted green that I had never let myself choose because someone else was sleeping in there. I did it myself, rolled every wall, got paint in my hair and on my elbow, and when I was done, I sat on the floor in the middle of the room and ate takeout pad thai and didn't talk to anyone. It was the best evening I had had in almost 2 years. My mom and I are in a strange place right now. We talk, but not like before. She hasn't apologized exactly. She said she was sorry if I felt like things were unfair, which is the kind of apology that is actually an argument. I have not pushed for more than that yet. I'm trying to figure out what I want the relationship to look like going forward. What version of closeness is possible between us now that I have stopped performing ease I don't feel? My stepfather has not reached out since the move out day. I'm not holding my breath. The Instagram post is still up. A lot of people have told me I should take it down, that it's not worth it, that I would regret it. I've thought about it. I keep deciding to leave it up. Not out of anger, but because every week someone messages me to say they're in a version of the same situation and they didn't know it was okay to want their own life back. If that one post is useful to even a handful of those people, then leaving it up is worth more to me than whatever peace keeping the peace might buy. I had dinner with Joel last month, just as friends, like he said. He asked how things were going, and I told him honestly. He said, "You seem different." I asked, "Different how?" He thought about it for a second and said, "Like you're in your own life." I've been thinking about that phrase ever since. I bought a small coffee table last week. Nothing special. Wood, round, from a local shop on South Congress. I put it on the balcony with a chair and a little plant I've been keeping alive for 4 months, which is a personal record. Every morning before my first call, I sit out there with my coffee and I watch the neighborhood wake up. The dog walkers, the guy who runs the same loop every single day in the same orange jacket, the light changing over the buildings to the east. Nobody is waiting for the bathroom. Nobody needs anything from me before I've had 10 minutes to myself. The space is mine in a way it hasn't been since the day I cried in the parking garage. I'm still learning what it means to hold on to that. I've been sitting with the word selfish for a long time now. My stepfather said it to me in my own home. In the condo I saved for 4 years to buy, in the space I had quietly handed over without being asked. And I've been turning it over like a stone in my pocket ever since, checking it from different angles, wondering if he was right. He wasn't, but I understand why it felt true to him. When you benefited from someone's silence long enough, their voice starts to sound like an attack. What I keep coming back to is this: nothing that happened to my family was random. Every outcome traced back to a choice. My choice to say yes without setting terms. Their choice to accept generosity without gratitude. My choice to stay quiet for 14 months because the discomfort of speaking felt bigger than the cost of silence. That's not fate. That's not bad luck. That's cause and effect playing out slowly and then all at once. I used to think being a good person meant absorbing whatever your family needed without complaint. That keeping the peace was a form of love. And maybe it is, for a while. But there's a point where keeping the peace becomes something else, where you're not being loving, you're just being afraid. Afraid of the conversation, afraid of the tears, afraid of becoming the person who changed. I spent over a year being afraid of that word, changed. Like growth was something I owed an apology for. Here's what I actually learned, not from the Instagram post or the voicemails or the dent in my hallway wall, but from Joel asking me if I actually wanted things to change. That question broke something open in me because the honest answer for a long time was no. Not because I didn't want my life back, because I hadn't yet built the internal clarity to believe I deserved it. Integrity isn't just about how you treat other people, it's about how honest you're willing to be with yourself about what's happening to you. The spreadsheet I made in February was me finally deciding to look clearly, to stop softening the numbers with emotion and just see what was real. That's the thing about being a data person. Eventually, you apply the same rigor to your own life that you apply to your work. And the picture that emerges is harder to argue with than feelings are. I didn't need to be angry to understand that the situation was wrong. I just needed to be honest. And then I needed to do something about it. That's the part that took the longest. Understanding a problem and choosing to act on it are two completely different things. One requires intelligence, the other requires something quieter and harder. The kind of resolve that doesn't announce itself, that just shows up in a text you finally send, a nook you finally move out of, a post you finally publish because you are done letting the public record be written entirely by the people who hurt you. I'm still learning what it means to hold all three at once. To be decent without being a doormat. To see clearly without becoming cold. To keep going even when the people you love most are the ones making it hardest. The balcony helps. The coffee helps. The plant I've kept alive for 4 months, which is honestly a metaphor I didn't plan, but I'll take it. That helps too.